Hey guys, Kevin Bupp here, and I want to welcome you back to another episode of the Real Estate Investing for Cash Flow podcast, where our mission is to help you build and maintain massive amounts of cash flow through income producing real estate investment. And our guest for this week's show is raw land investment expert Brent Bowers. Now, Brent specializes in the investment of raw tracts of vacant land. And we actually had the opportunity to have Brent on the show about a year and a half ago. And so I'm excited here today to get caught up with him to see just really what's evolved in his business, where they're at today versus a year and a half ago, and then what does the future hold in store as well. And so just a little bit more about Brent before we get rolling. As a former Army officer with over 8 years of service, Brent was spending a great deal of his time away from his family. And, he needed to make some changes. He knew he needed to make some changes in his life in order to be more present with his wife and kids. And so once he was back in the States, he quickly expanded his land business. He hired some talented team members. And then, most importantly, he bought back time with his family, guys. And so I'm excited to have Brent back here. Brent, my friend, how you doing today?
Good to see you again, Kevin. I'm doing amazing. I'm just checking out your background there. Real estate investing for cash flow, mobile home park
That's
investing. You're a
right.
cash flow investor. Like I'm just like fascinated with your bookshelf there. All my favorite things.
Yeah, no, it's served me well. So just really, it's my two podcasts. In fact, the top one there, Real Estate Investor for Cash, I've been doing that thing almost 11 years now, which is crazy. And then the excited about the mobile home park investing podcast, buddy. I launched that thing back in 2016 and I hosted it regularly for like 3 years. And then just life got in the way, priorities, came and stacked up against it. And so, but I just, prior to this interview that we're doing right now, I interviewed my first relaunch episode of that show. So I'm excited to actually kick it back out. We had recorded like 130 episodes, and now we're starting back up and pushing it back out to the world. So, but as you know, with podcasts, it's pretty neat because they're evergreen. And so, while I
Yeah.
haven't recorded the show for many years, it still gets downloads. I mean, it still gets
Yeah,
listeners
man.
that come in, and there's relevant information there that's applicable today. And so, anyway, yeah, no, it's a meaningful background. There's actually things that I've done or am doing, and then the book as well. But we're not here to talk about me. We're here to talk about you, man. So, we had you on the show about a year and a half ago. A lot can change in a year and a half, right?
Oh yeah.
Good
Yeah,
and bad, good
absolutely.
and bad. So, let's. How about we go here? How about we start? Give the a basic background for maybe those that didn't hear that episode, don't know your background, who you are, what you do, and then we'll figure out where you're at today, But also more importantly, I think is as we roll into the new year here. In fact, this episode might not go live until we're already in the new year. And so, but either way, we'll be either rolling into it or it had just started the new year. And so excited to hear from you, kind of what 2025 has in store. So with that, maybe just a brief background on yourself and how you found your way into the land investing business.
Yeah, absolutely. And I too am a cash flow investor. It's all about the cash flow for me. I'm getting rid of five rental properties that aren't cash flowing to hopefully invest into some mobile home parks because now I'm at a point where I really need tax shelters, like
Hmm.
tax savings, and that's a mobile home park. I'll know next week from my CPA if I got to go and buy one. I got a few on the radar, so I might be on hopefully on your podcast next year after
Yeah.
purchasing my first mobile home park. But I love vacant raw land, and it came from a problem. I was in the military. I was preparing to deploy to my third combat deployment. I was training up for it. So this means I'm basically away from my family over a year now at this point, once I go on this deployment. Luckily, I didn't have to go. Because it was my third one, I was like over it. I'm like tired of leaving my family, but I couldn't keep doing that. My first marriage didn't work out for me being gone all the time. Now I have another amazing wife, and this time we have kids involved. We have children, and I just saw the writing on the wall. I was like, this cannot keep happening to me. So I was looking for ways to make enough money to support my family. And I was wholesaling houses while I was doing it. I also had rental properties as well. Like these were just houses, and I had one triplex. So roughly about, I think, 7 or 8 doors. But there was no way I was ever going to be able to leave my day job with those 8 doors. And technically, they were pretty much costing me money every month. So I really wasn't the best landlord, what do you call it, house investor. because honestly, all my discretionary income went to paying down like Home Depot and Amex because I had to fix these properties up, and then I was evicting a tenant. Then I got to replace a refrigerator, a new septic system. It was just every single week getting called, and it wasn't a lot of doors. But then I found a podcast, and I couldn't even tell you. I wish I could give credit to this podcast. A guy talking about flipping raw land and doubling his money overnight, and I was like, okay, whatever this guy's talking, like if half of what he is saying is true, I just found the way I'm going to get out of the military. And I literally took immediate action that day. I started mailing landowners that day and starting getting deals fairly soon afterwards. And within about 18 months, I was netting about 12,000 a month from my land I sold on seller financing. So I put in my resignation with the military. It took me another year and a half to get out, and here we are today, 6 years later.
Congrats. That's exciting. No, that's a great story, great background. Appreciate that. And so I know that you said the first podcast, or the podcast that really turned you on to raw land, they had mentioned about flipping raw land. However, it sounds like your business mostly is buying raw land and then, selling it back to another end user on owner financing terms. Is that the majority of your business today?
That is the preferred method. That's the absolute best way. I try and do it because then I'm the bank. And there's a reason why the banks are the biggest, prettiest buildings in every city and every state, is because they know a lot about money. I'm just trying to follow what they do.
Mm-hmm.
But not all of them work that way. Sometimes they sell for cash, and which is great. And I just take that money and put it into something else. Or now I'm going to start 1031ing these bigger deals, these bigger cash deals into, light industrial building or maybe a mobile home park, because the strategy that's changed for me since a year and a half ago when we talked, and it seems like I got to get hit over the head with a shovel before I make a change sometimes, was I got a massive tax bill.
Mm-hmm.
And it started in 2021 for the tax year 2021. And I was like, oh my goodness, I got to start reading Tom Wheelwright's book, Tax-Free Wealth. And so I became a student of taxes. And I was like, if I buy enough real estate, not land, I don't get the tax benefit with land, but I make a bunch of money on land really quickly. And if I put that money from land investing into a cash flowing building, or something that's got, buildings, mobile homes are great. Mobile home parks are great because you can depreciate them even faster, according to my CPA.
Yeah, it's by far the most tax efficient commercial real estate investment that exists, for sure. So yes,
I love it.
Different subject, but yeah, it very is, and that's not why we invested in them. That's just one of the icings on the cake, right? Like we've been investing in it for a very long time, but that is definitely. I haven't seen anything more tax efficient. I'll leave it at that. And that's not just because I invested in them. Or that's what our business is, but is incredibly tax efficient. So
no, I'm excited. I'm so excited. So now I take learning. So smart people learn from their own mistakes. Wise people learn from other people's mistakes. So I wish I would have known what I know now. But so a couple years went by, and the tax bills just kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And I'm like, oh my goodness, I got to work just to pay these taxes. Well, now I'm just investing that money into future cash flowing assets that were eventually not eventually, but it has created a nice snowball. Like Dave Ramsey talks about the snowball effect when paying down debt. I'm doing the snowball effect when tenants paying me rent, as well as land buyers paying me monthly payments. And it really turns into something beautiful.
So it sounds like the primary source, though, of your tax issue was probably most to short-term gains on those properties that you just flipped, right? That you would buy and then ultimately flip in a short period of time. Short-term capital gains are significant in nature, and ultimately they stacked up. And while you were putting a pretty penny in your bank account, a big portion of that was ultimately going to go back to the tax man unless you figure out a way to offset it, which you have not done yet, but it sounds like you've got the right guidance now and you're going down the right path. Because if you would have ultimately seller financed all those instead of flipping some, while you still have tax consequences, it's a very different magnitude. And they're also piecemealed, right? Like it's only on the income that you've actually realized at that point.
Yeah.
So no, all good there. So with that being said, how do you make the determination if you find a piece of property? It sounds like, first and foremost, correct me if I'm wrong, it sounds like the primary intent is to sell it on terms. However, you're going to get people that reach out in your ad and say, "Hey, like I understand you offer financing, but I've got the cash. I'd like to buy it outright cash." Is
Yeah.
that typically what makes a determination of whether or not you sell it on financing or just flip it outright for cash?
Yeah, the buyer's in
Okay.
charge. If they can
Okay.
come up with all the cash, I don't change the price. But if they come up with all, and now sometimes they'll ask me if I'll do a discount for that, and I said, well, what were you hoping you could see, or
Hmm.
what were you hoping to see, and can you show me proof of funds? And most of the time, they're just kicking tires.
Yeah.
But no, it's a great thing. Because a lot of these builders and developers, like we're doing a deal right now, and anybody listening to this, I did not start here. I just want everyone to know I started with $285 land deals and sold
Hmm.
them for $5,000. Um, we're doing a deal right now where we're taking 38 acres and turning it into 80 lots.
Hmm.
We're basically, it's called an entitlement play, where we're taking that parcel of land, we're doing surveys and environmental studies and wetland studies and a new plat map engineering, and we're going to hand it all over to a builder, and he's not going to. We're not going to seller finance that. We couldn't, or I don't have the ability to yet. But he doesn't need our monthly payments at 12% interest per annum. None of
Yeah.
that stuff.
He's going to get a bank loan. Right, right.
Exactly.
Yeah. So let's talk about that one. Let's talk about that business model because that's kind of graduating to a much bigger scale. So let's use this one as a case study and um I guess how you find the deal, like how'd you source
Yeah.
that lead? Um how'd you identify that it was an opportunity that ultimately could be something that could be an entitlement play where you could go in and basically subdivide that parcel into a multitude of smaller residential lots. I mean, just walk us through that process from
Mhm.
beginning, identifying it, and then, timeline of how long it took, and then
Yeah.
what does
Well, we're
the
still,
potential exit look like? And I know you're still working through it, but
yeah, and not just as long as everyone understands that's,
yeah.
but how the past years, how I found 95% of my land deals, excuse me, have come from me sending a letter. I call it my LOLs, my land offer letter, to you, Kevin, saying, "Hey, I'd like to buy your 10 acres in Wichita, Kansas for $85,000. Sign it if you would like to accept it, and we'll close in 4 to 6 weeks." That's how I find the majority of stuff. But now I have been on this quest to tell more people about what I'm doing, because I used to be really quiet about what I was doing, especially when I was a military or army officer. I couldn't have a business outside of the army. But now I do videos every day because I want to tell more people about what I'm doing. I fund land deals. I buy land deals. I also work with other people that want to fund my land deals. Sunrise Capital Investments. Like, I'm sure like you fund deals as well. People bring you deals. So this one was actually brought to me by another Land Shark community member. They needed some cash, and I basically put the cash into the deal. It's going to be this one's going to be 6 months. Sometimes these take like 12 to 18 months. So these bigger ones usually take longer. They just, I don't know why. Well, I know why. We're dealing with the city, municipalities, annexing the land in from the county to the city, things like that. Surveys, environmental studies take a while. Then the engineers take a while. Um, but it's just a different type of deal. And I'm by no means an expert on entitlement plays. I've only done a couple. I've just been doing simple land flips for all these years, and I call a simple land flip is I buy the 5 acres for 50,000. I sell the 5 acres for 95,000. That's
Mhm.
I don't do anything to it except take
is
pictures.
is there an end buyer lined up already on this deal?
Yes, it's the builder building next door.
Okay, good deal.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
curious as to, and we don't have to give any more. I know you guys are still working on it, and surely don't want to jinx a deal or give out any private details. But I guess so. This was brought to you by one of your students. I know you teach a strategy, but I guess basis like what you guys have it under contract for, what it's gonna
Yeah.
what's your all in cost going through this entitlement process. Obviously, there's costs associated with it. You kind of gave the timeline, but then what's the exit look like or the
Yeah.
proposed exit?
Let me break it down. So we've already talked to the city. They are all on board, and this was all done ahead of time before we got it under contract, because success leaves clues. We saw another builder building really close by, so we started looking in other around that area. Got it under contract for roughly $400,000. Put some earnest money deposit down, and told the seller, "Look, we're going to pay you exactly what it's worth today, maybe a little bit more than what it's worth today, but we're going to go through the process of getting this ready to build houses on it. And it's a little bit of a process. But if you're willing to do at least a 6-month contract with us with a 3-month extension with an extra fee to you, we will get this done. So we went under contract, 400K. We're going to put about 100K into what we call the entitlement. So
Mhm.
it starts with like a wetlands study. We want to see where the wetlands, how to mitigate it if need be, and then it goes to an environmental study. We want to make sure like no, I don't know, mastodons or dinosaur bones or archaeological sites were on the property, and this is all a process. And once we hit that, then it's time for the survey, and then it's time after that. It's time for the engineer, which is usually the more expensive part of the
Mhm.
process. And then we do the new plat map, get it signed, stamped, and approved by the city. They'll annex it from the county to the city, waive the water tap fee because they're on board for the we call it density increase.
Mhm.
So there's ways to look for this. You can look for success, other people doing it. Obviously, if they're letting someone else do it, you can do it probably too. You can talk to the mayor, see where they want to see density increase, where they want to see housing increase. Talk to the city planner, like, because it's all about going with the grain of the city. I never want to go against them. I don't have the time or the money, and I'm not Donald Trump, and I don't want to sue them. So that's kind of the process. But once we get these lots completely stamped, signed, approved, is now what we call shovel ready. Some developers will buy it once it becomes shovel ready for the price of way higher, because now they can go in and start doing the underground construction, underground utilities, the roads. But if you really want to appease the developers, put the roads in for them, put the
Mhm.
utilities in for them, because now they can make money right away, because now they're making money because they make money when they're building, not putting
Right.
roads and stuff in. So if they're selling these houses for $180 a square foot, they're generally building for like $80 a square foot. So they sell 10 houses they just paid for that $2 million parcel of land.
Mhm. Yeah, no, that's absolutely. I mean, at the end of the day, all you really need to know is like what's their, what's the all-in cost? So how much can they pay for that, individual lot, or the collection of lots, like, so that their numbers still work on their house build, right? So
Yep.
they still have a profit margin there. So is that the proposed or the planned exit price, like 2 million? So you guys will be into it for, call it 500,000 and some change, and then call it, roughly a year period of time, and then a potential exit of near $2 million. Is that what and will you guys be are you going to be putting the roads and utility infrastructure in, or are you just going to let them handle that?
This one, they're doing that.
Okay.
Yeah, we're not putting
Okay.
the roads
And
in, but
so
yeah, about $2
is that,
million dollars is the
if,
exit.
if you guys were to put the roads in the utility infrastructure in, what would that cost? Do you know what that would cost you? And then how much of additional value or profit would you be able to build on top of that?
That's a great question. I haven't even looked into that, and I do have a boots on ground expert. He's done that on other projects.
Hmm.
I'm don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
No, no worries. No
I know
worries.
it'd be
Just curious.
expensive.
Sure. Sure. I mean, it adds more risk for you, right? So like basically you're offloading the risk from you guys, um, putting it on the builder, but the builder's ultimately getting at a discounted price, right? So like one way or another, someone's going to take on additional risk, and potentially make more money, is ultimately how that plays out. It's either on your side or on their side, whoever's willing to do it. Um,
After the builder has all this utilities, the water, the roads, he'll have about 40,000 per lot into it. So pretty much, just I call it another $2 million.
okay. Got it. Well, that's exciting. So this is, it sounds like this is, a smaller contingent of your business. Maybe you guys are going to be looking for more larger parcels like this. Um, but what's your bread and butter? Like,
Yeah.
what's the bread and butter look like? What part of the country do you find your most success? How large are these parcels? What's the average price point going in? And
Yeah.
maybe share a little bit more about like what the terms will look like on the back end when you sell it on, seller carry terms to an end
Yeah.
user.
Yeah, my bread and butter for years was I was buying, I mean, my first several years starting this 2016 was I was buying them for first several were like a couple $100, selling for 5,000. Then I moved up to buying them for a couple thousand, selling for 10,000. So I was basically buying for 2,000, selling for 10,000. And I was getting a $2,000 down payment to get my money back out of the deal, and then carrying the financing for several years at 12% interest, a couple $100 a month. And then it turned into, okay, I'm going to start buying $25,000 deals and selling them for 50 and 65,000. But we just did one the other day, bought well, two actually. Let me just go over two that we're selling in the next few days. One
Mm-hmm.
on Friday. We bought one in Georgia for $5,000. I not really wasn't really excited about this property, but I knew we could sell it for 15,000. And a realtor was like, "I'll list it for you." And she had sold other parcels in the area, so she was like that land sales expert real estate agent I wanted. She went and walked the land for us, and sure enough, she's got a contract for 14,500. We close on this 6th of December on Friday in a few days. Not a big deal, but we're going to make like $7,500 net profit. And I've got maybe 30 minutes into that deal.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, no seller financing on that one. And another one we got selling in a few more days after that, like the 12th. We bought this one was in Cape Coral, Florida, one of the most highly competitive areas of Florida. More parcels of land are selling per week than anywhere else in the country, I believe. We bought it for 49,000, no 45,000, and we got a cash offer for 89,000 so from a builder. He's going to build a beautiful home on it, and again, no seller financing on that one. But another one, my
And
bread
that's
and butter.
the Cape Coral one. That is that an existing already buildable lot, like shovel ready lots, got
Yeah,
utilities right
shovel
to it. Yeah,
ready.
Cape Coral is an interesting area. We used to own a lot of real estate down there, in the last 15, 20 years. But it was I don't know when they originally developed that area, probably back in like the 40s, 50s, 60s. But it's just they almost like developed an excessive amount of buildable lots. And it's still, the population isn't entirely there yet. It's definitely ramped up a ton over the last decade, but there's still vacant lots that have never had a home on them, which is
Yeah,
crazy. It's a unique, it's kind of an anomaly. Like I don't know if I've ever seen another area quite like that was built so long ago, but just even through multiple cycles, it kind of grows a little bit, and then it kind of goes through like a slow stage of time, and then it grows quite a bit, and then goes a slow stage of time. But at some point, well, all those lots will get absorbed.
yeah.
But I remember back when we owned down there, we could pick up those lots. This is pre 2008. We could pick up those lots. Gosh, we used to own waterfront properties on deep water canals going out to the Gulf with homes on them that we could pick up for $150,000.
Wow,
Yeah, yeah, and
so
you
incredible.
could buy lots. You could buy lots on deep water going out to the Gulf. Quite a bit of drive on some of those canals to get out to the Gulf, but either way, it's deep water. You could buy lots for, gosh, 50 grand, 60 grand. And that wasn't even like discounted pricing. That was like 2003,
Yeah.
4, 5 era. So anyway, it's crazy to see that area down there. But it's growing. There's a massive population down there, and the economic base is very different down there than what it was, 15, 20 years ago. Like there's jobs. I mean, it's not a major hub, but there's still jobs. Sarasota has grown significantly. Fort Myers has grown significantly, and both those cities are very drivable from Cape Coral.
Oh
So
yeah.
anyway, not to digress, but
No,
I was
no,
just
it's
curious.
great. And you can't be more right about it. And bread and butter, another one like we did. We bought for 40,000, and this one I knew we were going to seller finance this one because we already had a buyer lined up that wanted it for 95,000, and he could only put 5 grand down. So my in-laws actually lent me the money on that one, 40,000 at 9% interest, and we sold it to the gentleman for 95,000 at 12% interest, and he paid a $5,000 down payment. So my in-laws we paid off in 5 years, fully
Mhm.
amortized in 5 years. So I collected 5 grand up front, and I collect 946 a month from my buyer, 946 a month, and my in-laws payments 800 a month. So I keep 146 a month after the debt service is paid, and they'll be paid off in 5 years. I'll be paid off in roughly 14 years. So after the debt service is paid, I'll put my in-laws' capital to work again on another property, so they can keep earning and earning and earning. And then I'll keep the whole 946. So if that buyer goes to completion, which a lot of times they sell within about 5 to 7 years is what I see, or they'll stop paying me. crazy. We've taken a lot of land back, unfortunately, because sometimes people just disappear. They stop paying for it, or they'll sell it. Buyers have died and passed away, and their heirs will sell it, or their children, or their siblings. But if this thing goes to completion, I'll do over 106,000 dollars on that one parcel of land that I have none of my own money into.
Yeah.
So that's what I prefer to do. That's the bread and butter. I call it
Hmm.
the bread and butter, but a lot of times these are quicker flips. And sometimes they're great. We created another $200,000 mortgage on a parcel of land in Holly Hill, Florida, really close to Daytona Beach. So I
Hmm.
love Florida, Georgia, Tennessee, the Carolinas, Alabama, Colorado, and Texas. Those are my favorite
Okay.
areas.
Are you guys servicing all these in house, or do you use a third party to manage these loans?
I use a third-party software called EasyNoteTracking.com. That's actually an affiliate link that I have. It goes to GeekPay. It's going to get you your first note for like $49. But you can do over 100 notes for $99 a month, and I charge each buyer anywhere from $10 to $25 to service that note. So that's kind of paid for. But yeah, it pulls the payment directly out of their checking account each month. It tracks everything, gives them back end access so they can see how much they owe, print off their tax documents if they need it, pay extra payments, all that stuff. It's pretty cool software. Keeps it in line because I was doing the first few on Excel. I was lost. It was just a mess.
Yeah, I bet. I bet. I'm glad to hear that there's software out there to support that. I would imagine that there would be, but glad to hear that there is. So, um, talk to me about defaults. I mean, as we go
Yeah.
into maybe some more economically challenging times for consumers in general. Just I'm sure I don't know. I'd be curious to know if like have you seen the default rate creep up? And then I guess the second part of that question is how do you manage that? I mean, I start thinking about some of the smaller deals, right? Like if you're carrying back a note for 10,000 or fifteen
Yeah.
thousand dollars, and ultimately you have to actually foreclose, go through that process. Number one, you've got missed income, you've got probably some legal fees associated with it, and then that all costs money, right? Time is money, and an attorney costs money as well. Um, so I would love to understand that process a little bit more, what that looks like. How do you mitigate some of those risks?
Yeah. Um, if I'm going to sell it through a realtor, generally it's more than a $30,000 parcel of land, and then we'll sell it on a mortgage and a promissory note, or a mortgage and a deed of trust, depending on what
Mhm.
state it is in. And I always get at least $5,000 down for those. The cheaper parcels of land, under 30,000, and we're not getting quite $5,000 down payment, and I'll generally do a contract for deed or a land contract,
Okay.
and we'll just take it back with a cancellation of contract for deed.
Got it.
And thank God to this day, no one's ever fought us. Most people are. I'll work with you if there's a way. Sometimes we've paused loans before on people's land. We've moved late payments to the back end.
Hmm.
I've modified them. I've restructured them, because at the end of the day, I can get another land deal tomorrow. I'm not worried about taking. I don't want to take a piece of land back. If
Yeah.
someone's willing to pay for it, then I will figure out a way to keep them in that land. We've even lowered the interest for people to 0%. But anyhow, so I thank God I've never had anybody fight me to this day. And I've never had to physically foreclose with an attorney yet on a
Okay.
parcel
Great.
of land. But yeah, I've taken back quite so if I've collected less than $5,000 down, it's about a 50% guarantee I'm going to take the land back. And I didn't know this when I started out. I started this in 2016. Now I have data. That was my first note I did was in 2016.
Hmm.
So I'm starting to see more and more of these come back. Um, yeah, and it's just a lot of them I'm already profitable in the land.
Yeah.
So I tell them also, if you ever come back and want to buy another parcel, I will put what you've paid me towards the next parcel. Like I bought 123 parcels of land in Arizona for $400 a piece, and then I sell those things for like 4 grand on financing. So I've done a bunch of those, and some of them have paid off, some of them have defaulted, and I resold them and resold. Like I think I'm on uh, sale number 4 on one parcel of land, just below where Columbia Records. used to own in
Okay.
Colorado.
I'm just curious, what does a $400 piece of land look like in Arizona
Yeah, it's it's 1 acre. It's 1.09 acres.
in the middle
It's
of
off of
nowhere?
a in the middle of nowhere, close to the Petrified National Forest. But yeah, I made a killing on these parcels of land. And it's people love it too. Like they go out there and stay in their RV, they camp, they cook meth, they blow stuff up, they shoot their guns, like whatever they want to do. It's completely unrestricted land. I have one parcel left out of 123 of these.
But
Well,
there's
one parcel left to sell.
no utilities or anything, correct?
Yeah, no, there's electric like at like the main entrance, but you got to dig a well if you want water.
Hmm.
A lot of them will go, like kind of go off solar.
Off the grid. Yeah. Yep. Yep.
Yeah,
Yep. Yep. No, that makes sense. Okay. Very interesting. I'm not familiar with that area. I'm just curious as to what a
me
$400
either.
parcel of land. And obviously someone went
Never
out
been
there at
there.
some point and subdivided that, right? I mean, like that
Yeah,
was
yeah, they sure did.
was that a failed development of some sort? Do you know the history on that?
I don't. I really should. I've never actually been there.
Did you buy
My
all 120 of those parcels from the same owner?
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, my partner that actually funded the deal, he went out there. He took a trip and took photos of all the land for us,
Oh
and
my gosh.
he's incredible. He's actually in, I think, he's somewhere in Asia right now. He travels too.
Interesting. I start envisioning like a off the grid like you know hippie quasi homeless encampment
Yeah.
like looking thing, right? Like with
Oh yeah.
old 1980s RVs, half of them don't run or more than half don't run, right? Like they're
Yeah.
just like shanties built onto them, then additions to additions to additions,
Oh yeah.
solar
You're
panels obviously, and that's what I envision.
That's right. Yeah, you're pretty much right. They built yurts. I got in trouble in Colorado when people would do that. Like I sold a piece of land in this metropolitan district, and what you just mentioned happened on the piece of land. I had to literally give the lady her money back so she would get off the land because the metropolitan district was all over me. And I owned quite a few parcels in that area, and I was flipping a house in that area at the same time. So I wasn't like trying to mess around, but she's like, you said I could live on it. I was like, no, I didn't. Here's your
Oh my
money.
gosh.
Please get all your stuff off.
That's crazy. Well, good deal. Well, no, that's exciting. So you got lot going on. Got your hands in a number of different pots and making money and having fun doing it. So let's talk about 2025. Like I said, as
Yeah.
this gets released, it could already be 2025. So, but just what are you most excited about? I think just the simple question of what are you
Yeah.
most excited about in your business and what you guys are doing.
You know what I'm really excited about is just increasing the passive income because I pretty much take a trip every month, and I'm trying to take more time for family, more time to because I think like when we meet our basic needs, like now God can use us. I'm not
Mhm.
focused on paying the light bill type stuff. But 2025, I'm really excited because I'm selling a 19 unit apartment complex, one that I have. I'm a owner in. I'm selling four additional houses, so I'm selling five properties. I'm going to 1031 into cash flowing assets like mobile home parks or some more light industrial buildings. So I'm excited about that, and I'll keep doing my land deals because that's again that's what pays the bills. But I'm excited to get rid of. I'm taking five dogs out back and shooting them basically. These dogs have not been producing. They got a lot of equity, but I can't. If I had a real job and I needed to quit it,
Can't
I
pay bills
couldn't
with
quit it.
equity.
No,
Can't
no,
write a check on
exactly.
that.
So I looked at what I can buy a mobile home park for in like oh, whatever. I don't even remember. Mississippi. It was like six lots. And please don't hold me to these numbers. But I looked at the numbers and I was like, I would net almost $2,800 a month, and I could pay for it cash with a sale of one of these properties, just one of these houses. And I was like, what in the world? I'm not netting anything on this house in Cripple Creek, Colorado. There's always something that breaks. Like I replaced the stove right before the tenants moved out and they trashed it.
Yep. Understood. Understood. Well, when you get down the path of buying a mobile home park, let me know. I'll be more than happy to provide you guides and feedback. I cringe a little bit when you say a 6 unit in in Mississippi. Depending, I don't know where it's located in Mississippi.
Sounds
We actually
scary.
and we own in Mississippi, so I like certain areas of Mississippi. But you start getting rural, small communities. A lot of these things were built by just people that shouldn't have been building them, so the infrastructure is a mess. Typically, they come with park owned units, and those things have been rentals for 40 years, and they're complete.
Mm.
dogs themselves, so they even a small one at the right. I always joke and say that there's certain communities that I wouldn't actually take if you gave them to me for free. And I know that's hard to believe, but and I think that's applicable to any type of real estate, right? There's certain things if you just gave it to me for free, I still don't know if I would want it, right? Because
I got some
I think
land like
I
that.
see it's easier to lose on it than it is to win. I mean, I got a funny story about one of the parks we bought a long time ago. I actually didn't want to buy it, and I made such a low, egregious offer. It was a bank-owned property, but it was in a part of Georgia that was just depressed. It had not. This is like 2015, had not come back. Even post-recessionary period. It was 2 hours away from Atlanta. It had no economic factors that were driving it in the right direction. I mean, it was very hard to find quality tenants. People that had money, people that had jobs. Like, I mean, again, I can't change that. I can't change the economic base of the area. I can't change the job opportunities. If they don't exist, they don't exist. But anyway, it was a 70 space park, actually a really nice looking park. And we bought it for, I think, God, it was such a ridiculous price. I made such a low offer, and I was so mad when the broker actually accepted it, told me that the bank accepted it. I think it was like 125 grand. It was ridiculously low. Um, and we did make money on it, but it took a lot of energy and effort to make a decent profit after two years of running it. We couldn't find good people, lots of turnover, lots of other challenges. Just lots of bullshit to deal with. And I think we ended up selling it for like 800 grand. I mean, and we had 350 into it. So like, I'm not going to say we didn't make money. It was still a good ROI if you looked at it as far as money invested, but then you start factoring in time invested.
Hmm.
And then you start saying like, could have probably bought a number of other even better deals at fair prices instead of thinking that we're stealing this one and that there's no way we can't lose on it. And so like there was times I thought we wouldn't be able to get all of our money back out of it. Like just problem after problem after problem, more related to tenant base. That's more
Yeah.
what it was. Like literally, if you can't find quality people, number one, not every area is affordable, or not every area in the country has an affordable housing issue. There's actually plenty of areas in this country you can live very affordably. And so, first and foremost, that area you could have lived affordably. And so, we were offering a product that was competing against even stick-built homes in the area because
Oh,
everything was cheap, right? It was cheap to live there, and it was a poor area. Homes were cheap. That's a challenge. So, we're trying to sell mobile homes when you could go buy a stick-built home for not much more than a mobile home.
yeah.
That's a
Do you
challenge.
find
And
it's
there's
better?
Mississippi and Alabama, all those like deep South there's plenty of areas like that still that exist. That's where I'm going with that comment. There's plenty of areas
Very
like that
interesting.
that you can get into poor areas where unemployment rate is, high single digits, maybe in double digits, no jobs, lots of crime, schools aren't great. And single family homes just aren't all that expensive. If you're not at least north of $100,000, which it should be higher than that, but be very weary. Like you can go to Flint, Michigan now and buy a home still, at least in the not so great part of Flint, Michigan. You can probably still buy homes for like 30, 40 grand. Um, so uh,
Yeah.
anyway, and plenty of other parts of the country. Not to digress here. This show is about you, not about me. But
No,
we
I
start talking
love
about
it.
mobile home parks and you get me excited.
I'm excited. This is so, and it's just like the land business, and the way I look at it is it's a small piece of land paying me multiple times is what's exciting to
Yeah.
me. And I don't know, my goal is I was going to sell the park owned units to the tenants, and if they don't buy it, they got to get out. And then convert it to 55 and older have a little less riffraff. But that's easy to do in Florida. I don't know how easy it is to do in other
In
countries
theory,
or
it's a great
other parts
plan.
of the
Yeah,
country.
in theory, it's a great plan, and it can either work or it can backfire. So, but it's just hard. It's hard to know. We've done both. And we had both happen. When we try to do that strategy. So it just depends. I can tell you one thing: you can't. It's nearly impossible to force if a renter has no interest in owning, while you might convince them to take over the ownership of that home and make them feel like a homeowner. I could promise you that they're probably used to not fixing things. They probably don't know how to fix things. They probably don't have the money to fix things. And so whenever that home starts to have things that break on it, AC breaks, roof starts leaking, any of that, what I've seen happen, if it's a lower grade community like that, is they'll live there until they can't live there anymore and they'll leave that home. And then now it ends up back to you anyway. And it's in worse condition when you gave it to them. And so, it's kind of like,
Sounds like my rental houses.
yeah, you just end up getting them back, you end up giving them back. And that doesn't happen all the time, but if they have no skin in the game and really, again, they've just been, renting a low grade unit for a long time, it's just very hard to convert them to a different mentality. And on
All
top of
right,
that, you've given them a home that might not be in all that great a shape anyway, right? And so it's kind of like it's like a loaded gun, just
You
waiting to
talked
go
me out of
off.
mobile homes. I'm going back to I'm going
No,
back to
no. We
multi-land.
again, we love parks. You just got to buy the right ones in the right areas. That's all. That's
Yeah.
all.
Same thing with
Otherwise,
land. It's
yeah,
so
it's like
funny.
anything. It's anything. You can't change the market. Like I always say that you can show me a great asset. Looks well maintained from the outside looking in, looks phenomenal. But if it's in a market that's in a decline to where maybe a larger employer, a couple large employers have moved away from the area, maybe now, while that used to be the good school district, they've kind of built a bigger school over here. And now this is an area that's got the less desirable schools, right? Like I can't fix any of that. It might be a good
Hmm.
looking park, but if there's no jobs and the kids or families don't even want to live there because maybe like they used to live there because they wanted to be in the school district, they wanted to be in that zip code. Right now that doesn't even work for them. It's like how do you sell people on coming in? You can't fix that problem, but I can fix, I can buy a really ugly park as long as it's in the right part of town, right school district. There's plenty of employment opportunities for folks, and I can kick out. I know that at that point I can kick out the bad element, no matter how bad it is. I can kick them out, get rid of them. I can put money back into it, make it look good, maybe even bring new homes in because I know that there'll be good people waiting for that product. I can fix that. I just can't fix my surroundings.
Yeah.
I.e. the market itself. So.
Man, that's
Um,
good. That's good. I hope everyone wrote that down. That's real good.
anyway, enough of mobile home parks. Well, Brent, I appreciate you coming on. We joked and said what we're going to talk about. We just talked a year and a half ago, but I think we covered a lot of positive ground and lots of good stuff. So I think that was hopefully valuable to those that are tuning in here. But for those that want to learn more, Brent, about you, your company, what you offer, I know you offer coaching as well. Where's the best place to track you down?
Yeah, head on over to thelandsharks.com if you want to schedule a call and talk about any of this stuff. But I'm all over YouTube, Brent L. Bowers, and yes, the L stands for land. I try and put out a video every single day.
Awesome. Good deal. Well, Brent, appreciate you coming on, my friend. Always good catching up with you and wishing you all the best with land and mobile home parks. And hopefully next time we'll come back and we'll have some more cool, exciting things to talk about.
Thanks, Kevin. God bless.
Alrighty, guys, that's all we have for this week's show. So until we meet again next week, this is your host, Kevin Bupp, wishing you huge success. Take care.